Hello everyone, this is Taran here from Study Hub. Now most of the students that I have taught always had difficulty in approaching the drop-down blanks in the right way. If you also find drop-down blanks really difficult, please watch this full video and you will get a lot of confidence approaching this question, because this question depends a lot on the right techniques, right strategies and right approach. And that's where we are going to help you, right? So without any further delay, let's watch this video and I'm sure you're going to love it. Let's start. Okay, so we are going to start with reading and writing blanks, one of the very, very important questions. Very helpful session. I will not go into the details of techniques and strategies since it's a workshop, but I will be referring to the techniques and strategies. Your objective should be to make sure whatever selection you are making, there is a reason behind it other than feelings. Now, reading and writing blanks are one of the questions in the reading section. You will find that in the reading section. And they are the most important question in the reading section. In real exam, you will have 5 to 6 questions here. And each question will have around 4 to 6 blanks, let's say. And your intention is to make sure that you're going to get 70 to 80% correct. What that means is you can afford to make 1 or 2 mistakes on an average. That will be your way of assessing how prepared you are with your blanks. Now, this is a question that will contribute score to your reading and to your writing modules. Roughly 20 to 25 question marks out of 90 to reading, roughly 20 to 25 marks out of 90 for writing. Roughly, right? So it may vary, can be 27, it can be 19, it can be 22, 23, whatever. The algorithm works in a way that no one could understand. It's a software, and software has got certain way of working on certain things. And we are going to spend, your intention is to get this right in 2 to 2.5 minutes, but I'm going to give you about 3 minutes today. Main objective should be to work around the logics. Let that be wrong. But please don't try to solve it based on feelings. Let's have the first question on the screen then. You have 4 options for each blank there. You need to select the right one. And then once you have done that, I'll give you the answers and then we will discuss them. Start. All right, we are done with the time. Let's discuss this one. The answer for the first one is immunize. Second one is method. Third one is consist of. Fourth one is condition. And fifth one is controversy. How many of you got all correct? If you're getting nothing wrong or 1 wrong, you're on the right track. But let's discuss now each one how I came to that answer. So the first one, very good. Answer is around that word. According to the literature, the history of vaccination can be traced back to as early as the 7th century, when the monks in India tried to dash themselves by drinking snake venom. So immunize, cure, treat, and serve. Now, whenever you're trying to find the answer here, mostly the words will be familiar words. Mostly you will not get difficult words, but they will be close options. So in this case, it is more about correct and more correct options rather than right or wrong options. So in here, you've got options immunize, cure, treat, serve. So when you're trying to select this one, you need to look for the other words being used in the question. Tried to, right, that verb, drinking snake venom. So why would you drink snake venom? What is vaccination? And what were they trying to do? Cure, serve will not make sense in this context at all. Because we are talking about medicine, vaccination, medical knowledge. And in that we use the words immunize, cure, treat. Treat and cure is normally for a disease.
Do you see any disease being mentioned in there? So if this was more about the pneumonia, the tuberculosis, the TB meningitis, the arthritis, then that is a disease, and disease is always cured or treated. But vaccination is not for cure or treating. Vaccination is normally for helping you stay away from a problem. COVID-19 vaccination recently, most of us got. In Australia, almost everyone got it, right? What was the reason? It was not because you got COVID-19, it was because you wanted to immunize yourself from getting. So immunize is the answer because of vaccination, trying to do something, and drinking snake venom. So that snake venom over there is a poison in itself, right? So poison is not curing or treating, it is normally immunizing it. The first vaccination was inoculation. Inoculation again means immunizing. Immunizing yourself with something infected, that is called inoculation, right? When they put something in you which is already infected to help you immunize against it. So the first vaccination was inoculation with human smallpox, a practice widely carried out in ancient India, Arabia, and China. This dash of vaccination collecting pus from patients suffering from mild. This dash of vaccination collecting pus. So cannot say mean. Now, I would be more confused about way and method, this way of vaccination or this method of vaccination. This approach of vaccination, we don't say approach of, approach to. This approach to something. And mean is not used with of. We could say this means vaccination, something like that. So it is not used with of. So whenever you're getting these prepositions as well, they will help you to just find out the right answer. So when I look at that of, my collocations are way of or method of. Now I need to decide which one is it, way of or method of. For that, I will have to look at this, what is happening here. And I will also have to look at what is happening here. And when I look at this, they are talking about a method, methodology, right? Way of could be very general word. We can say this way of vaccination. So, right, in this case, we are talking about a method collecting pus from a patient suffering from mild form of smallpox virus infection, inoculating sample to a healthy human. So that is actually a method of vaccinating someone. Of vaccination dash collecting pus from a patient suffering, right? So this method of vaccination made of collecting, made from collecting, consist of collecting, or origin from collecting. So this doesn't make sense. Made of collecting. So this method of vaccination is made of, we say. We don't say this method of vaccination made of. This method of vaccination is made of or is made from. For that reason, I cannot go with this one here. So the only option I'm left with is this method of vaccination consists of collecting pus from patients suffering from, which later led to a minor infection. This method, another reason you should have gone for method there, was first introduced in England by a Greek named Etemone. However, this method had a risk of spreading smallpox in the community and even worsening the health condition. That's a collocation. How is the condition of your, how's your health condition? How are the health conditions there, right? So we didn't say health situation, we don't say health circumstance, we don't say health character, we say health condition. Last one. This method also faced something but continued to be universalized. So what is here? This is something positive. And because there is but, there has to be something negative before it. Are you getting me? Because there is but here, you have to see what is after but. After but, you're seeing something positive, continued to be universalized. Everyone was accepting it, universe. So that means what we need before this will be a negative thing. And because it is negative, we cannot go for appreciation and we cannot go for acceptation. So either controversy or penalty. Now what happens? Method can face penalty or method can face controversy. Method can face controversy. Method cannot face a penalty. Penalty is normally for humans or, right, some actions that are done. Method is not penalized. So that's how we come for the answers. Any questions here? Let's move to the next question. Let's discuss. The answer for the first one is impacts. Second one is lesson. Third one is barriers. Fourth one is prepare for. Fifth one is commence. Let's discuss this one, how we come. Now, this one here and these two words here are very similar, but try to understand the difference in these words. Impact is normally for the influence. If something has influenced you, if something falls on the earth and you see that big pit formed on there, let's say a heavy thing drops on the, and right, that is called impact. If you hit something on the mirror, something side breaks, that is called impact, because that is how, that is affected it, but it is more of an influence. Effect is more about the result of something. If you are getting a result of something, so the effect of staying away from home is I feel lonely. So that is an effect. It's not an influence. And that's where our first answer comes from. Disadvantage in early childhood poses multiple risks to children's development. Negative tone. Factors such as low socioeconomic status, long-term unemployment of parents, and social isolation may have lasting dash on a child's chance of reaching their full potential. So it can really impact their chance. Affect does not make sense. We need a noun here. Behavior will not make sense. You would be confused with lasting effect or lasting impact. Mostly you will see with this lasting, the collocation is with impact, because lasting is always influence, right? So we say lasting impact. Whilst not eliminating disadvantage, preschool education can help to dash the effects of these risks. Can help to, we are looking at something positive here. The effects of risk factors, that means the result of these risk factors. So you don't want to elevate the effects of risk factors. Elevate means increase it, because you're helping. Helping means minimizing it. Learn in very general. Out of streamline and lesson, answer will be lesson, because you want to minimize the effects of these risk factors. Why? Help to. Help to means we need something positive here. And can provide children with a better start. And again, another reason, better starts to school. There is and there. So positive with positive. If this is positive, there has to be something positive in the beginning. Another reason you should have selected lesson there. However, some of these factors may also be dashed to preschool attendance for groups that would benefit most from. So, however, over here means you're looking at something opposite to this. What is happening here? Something positive or negative? Positive. So, however means we are looking at something negative here. Very much like we did but in the previous one. So, these factors may also be, cannot be. Merits cannot be, and also these words don't go with to. We don't say may also be advantages to, advantages of, right? Merits of. So it can be either compensations or barriers. Answer will be barriers here. They are hindrance to preschool attendance for groups that would benefit most from preschool education. Feel free to interrupt me and bring up your argument. I'm more than happy to explain that again. In Australia, the early years of children's education is the responsibility of many governments and non-government agencies, and it occurs in a range of settings. Preschool is aimed at children around 4 years of age to dash them for compulsory schooling to, we are looking at a collocation. Restrict them from, prepare for, comprehend and associate, they go associate goes with associate them with compulsory, right? We don't say associate for compulsory. So here it will be prepare for compulsory schooling. Answer will be prepare. And let's go to the last one. In 2001, just over half of 5-year-olds were at school, with about a third attending preschool, while in some states and territories, children can dash preschool before they turn 4. Participation rates for 3-year-olds are much lower. Children can dash preschool. So what do you do with the preschool? Preschool is started. So children can complete preschool while in some states children can, before they turn 4, you can't complete it before you turn 4. And for same reason cannot go to graduate. Children don't teach. So answer will be commence, which means start preschool before they turn 4. So far, so good. Let's start. Okay. Answer for the first one is responsible for. Second one is assessment. Third one is level. Fourth one is trace.
I had the risk factor, so not the
Risk
assessment.
factor makes sense,
I was
right?
confused. I was confused between assessment and factor, but then I went with factor.
Let's see how we got. Now, risk factor is a collocation. Risk assessment is a collocation. Risk comparison and risk preparation will not make sense. So either you will have risk assessment or you will have risk factor. But let's see what is happening in that sentence. Are we talking about any risk factor or are we trying to assess the risk? Right? So that is how we. Okay, researchers in Europe and the US wanted to find out exactly what happens to our brain when we find ourselves stunned with fright in the hope of better understanding how fear interplays with human anxiety disorders. So something negative research. For the first time, they traced and linked the parts of the brain dash for freezing behaviors. So they linked the parts of the brain dash for risk behaviors responsible for risk behavior. The amygdala, ventrolateral, periaqueductal gray region, and whatever. Mice are excellent lab animals when it comes to anxiety and fear experiment. When a mouse is scared, what happens when a mouse is scared? Its defensive behaviors range from freezing, attacking, risk something, or fleeing the scene. So when you look at this, freezing activity, attacking activity, it is acting, fleeing the scene, it is acting. So we are looking at something where that action is happening. Risk factor is not an action. Assessment of risk factor is an action. Mice is freezing, mice is attacking, mice is assessing the risk, or mice is fleeing away from the scene. And for that reason, we are going for assessment. Factor would have been correct. If you got factor option, that means you were still working around some logics, but the context was missed. You missed on the context. All right. So for that reason, it will be risk assessment because we are talking about a behavior here. How a mouse acts depends on variables such as access to escape routes or the dash of threat faced. Quota will not make sense. Size will not make sense. So either you would have gone with risk or level, but threat itself means risk. So we don't say risk of threat. Right? It's like risk of danger. Danger means risk, risk means danger. Risk of extinction, danger of something. So we don't say risk of. So for that reason, we don't go for risk because we can't say risk of threat. Level of threat? Yes. So escape routes or level of threat faced. So Andreas Luthi at the Friedrich Miescher Institute for Biomedical Research in Switzerland and colleagues from Europe and the US observed brain activity in mice placed in frightening situations to dash circuits responsible for freezing behaviors. To dash circuits, cannot say cover, cannot say evolve because either you would have gone for trace or you would have gone for track. Anyone selected track the brain circuits?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, what is the difference between tracking and tracing? So when you send a parcel to someone, what do you get? Do you get a tracing order or do you get a tracking number?
Tracking number.
Right. So what is tracking number? Tracking number or track is the parcel is originating from here and it has to come to B and it is moving here. This is called tracking. When you look at something from the starting point to where it is going to end, it's called tracking it, track. But when you are looking at the path backwards, you're trying to find the traces where it came from. That activity of going back and finding the origin point or starting point is called tracing. So I'm going to trace. I will trace my forefathers. We don't track them, we trace them. Now look at what the question is saying. Colleagues from Europe and US, brain activity in mice placed in fighting situations to dash the circuits responsible for freezing behavior. So you're trying to find who is responsible for tracing, who is responsible for frightening, right? What are those behaviors? So you're tracing back, you're trying to find them. Therefore, answer will be trace. Another reason you should have selected trace was
on top. Yes, yes.
exactly same thing. In particular, the researchers wanted to learn more about a part of the brain called the ventrolateral perigudectal, whatever, gray region. Dash was believed to play some part in a mouse's instinct to freeze behavior. Answer will be, it cannot be it. Anyone selected it there? It was believed. So it will only be possible if there is a full stop here. If there is a full stop here, we'll go with it because we are starting a new sentence. Now there is a comma, continuation of the sentence. So we need a conjunction here. Who, that, and which can behave like conjunctions. But who is a conjunction that is used for people, humans? Here we are talking about some region. Therefore, answer could be that or it. Now try to understand the, you will get a lot of questions around this logic. So why we can't go with who? Because we are talking about a thing, not a person. If there was someone mentioned here, if I said US researchers, then I'll say who, right? US researcher who was believed, or Tim Payne who was believed, whatever. So we cannot go with who. It is not possible here. It will only be possible if there is a full stop. So we can either go for that or which. What is the difference between usage of that and which? They are interchangeable. Wherever you're using which, you can use that. Wherever you're using that, you can use which. The only difference is that is never used with a comma before it. That is never used with a comma before it. Now, since there is a comma, we are going to go with which. Let's go to the next one. First one is a collocation. Second one is a context. Third one is context. Fourth one is again context. And third one is collocation. All good? The answer for the first one is poring over reports. Second one is suspect. Third one is utterances, discovery, movements. Let's discuss. Jan Piaget, the pioneering Swiss philosopher and psychologist, spent much of his professional life listening to children, watching children, and pouring reports of researchers around the world who were doing the same. So here that means going through the reports of researchers and pouring over towards in doesn't make sense. So it will be pouring over when you go over certain reports. It's a collocation. After thousands of interactions with young children, with young people, often barely old enough to talk, Piaget began to dash that behind their cute and seemingly illogical something were thought processes that had their own kind of order and their own special logic. So they were cute, seemingly illogical. So it seemed to be very cute and very illogical. You don't know what it is, but there was a proper kind of order and special logic behind it. So what did he began to assume, suspect, appreciate, and estimate will not make sense. Out of assume and suspect, you need to select one. Assume is more something which is not based on any logics, any study. I assume, right? I'm assuming there is no reason behind it, right? But suspect is when you are seeing something, but you know it is not what it is. It is something different. So that's what is exactly happening here. He's seeing their cute and seemingly illogical something, but he knows that there is a special kind of order and special logic behind it. So that is suspicion he built up. And of course, this will be utterances. Anyone selected anything else other than utterances here? because here they are saying often barely old enough to talk. So if they cannot talk, it cannot be communication, it cannot be dialogue, and it cannot be language. Utterances will be the answer. Einstein called it a dash so simple that only a genius could have thought of it. A discovery so simple. Encounter will not make sense. Invention is normally used when you create something that does not exist. Here, it was always there, but only Jan Piaget was the one who realized that it is there. So it could be discovery, could be finding. Finding is mainly a very generic word, general word that you use for anything that you find. I found this pen under the table. But discovery is when someone finds something for the first time. No one knew it. Apple was falling down from the tree. It was always doing the same. So Newton discovered it, right? That was a discovery he made, that it is because of whatever, gravitation. Is James Cook, was it, who discovered Australia? Vasco da Gama discovered India. So it was always there. India was always there. Australia was always there, but it was Captain Cook who first time found it. And something first time found is called discovery. So normally when you get a question around these lines of geographical, historical, right, space, something like this, it will be discovery. And the answer for the last one will be, although not an educational reformer, someone who is responsible in reforming, changing, he fashioned a way of thinking about children that provided the foundation for today's education reform. Cannot be application, cannot be evolution, because evolution is something that naturally happens over time. We evolved as human beings, we evolved as Homo sapiens. So either it is revolution or movement. Revolution is more aggressive and revolting. In this passage, nowhere we see that aggressiveness. We are saying something that is saying, okay, it is there, we need to change it. So therefore it will be movement. Movement, there are two meanings for movement. One is the act of moving. The other one is development.
All right, guys, was it helpful? I'm sure you really learned a lot from the logics and from this video. Now, please like and share this video. Write in the comment section if you want us to create some other videos on some other topics. Always happy to help. And if you need to go for online coaching, proper professional training with senior teachers, feel free to give us a call back on those numbers. Thank you very much. Take care. God bless you all. Bye-bye.